Hi, friends. Welcome. We are just amidst a little bit of a pre-show hiccup, but Bart will be here very shortly, so worry not. Feel free to grab your water in your Prima bottle. I wish I had a Prima bottle. I actually have a mason jar tonight. I should get a Prima bottle for the show. Bart will be here very shortly where we're going to tackle the big topic of pain. Where does it come from? What do we do about it? How do we proceed in our superhuman selves being in that experience? Guys, you're not going to believe this. I just got a hand delivery of a Prima bottle. I want to give a special shout out to Jesse Brewer for being the real MVP and giving me what I need. What a fortunate person I am. Thank you, Jesse. That was some real magic that just happened. So I just got back like 1 hour ago from a trip with my mom to Universal Studios. And I think about when I think at any time about the topic of pain. My mom is amazing. She's 67 years old and she walked like 20,000 steps every day with us. Um, Her capacity to be in a pain-like experience and not complain is really impressive. I know that we all know those people who have the capacity to have an experience without maybe making it everyone else's experience. So I'm very fortunate to come from Robin Zimmerman, who is just a beautiful human being. I have her picture right in front of me here. I hope I'm that way when I'm 67 years old. May I have the great fortune to make it there. For those of you just joining, Bart will be here very shortly. Thank you for your patience. It's a different kind of pain when your technology doesn't work. So Bart will have some laughs for us when he arrives, I'm sure. In the meantime, just be thinking about like what comes up for you when you think about that four-letter word, pain. There's no wrong answers, right? We all have our own experience. Thank you guys for hopping on to see us. Bart is on the way. He will be here very shortly. We've got a pretty awesome topic tonight. Thank you for hanging with me here. Let's see. Dr. Bart,
Hello, Whitney.
welcome to the show.
Glad to be here.
It's a treat to have you, my friend.
Yes, that was an interesting moment with technology. It's all good.
I thought it was a pretty fun way to lean in towards our topic tonight. I thought it might be a different kind of pain when the technology gives you a little hiccup, but it is all good. We're here.
Yes, and great topic tonight.
Yes.
It's I'd go as far as saying the topic we're going to talk about, which is pain. It might be one of the most like important conversations that we can have, and yet I don't know that we could have enough. And over the last couple decades now, recognizing that pain drives almost all decisions worldwide. It's really, when we really drive down, dig down deep into the bigness of pain, and it kind of goes like this, that pain, we're making all our actions based on one of two things. We're either moving away from pain, and just in anything in life, and or we are moving towards pleasure. And the challenge is that more often than not, we are moving away from pain. So tonight, what I want to do, and this is not an easy topic, meaning that it seems easy from the outside, because we've been absolutely told and taught incorrectly about how to interpret pain and what role that pain plays in our life. So tonight I'm going to lay it out the best that I can. And I'm going to give some options and some remedies, but the bigger part of this, so I'll definitely, specifically to herbal remedies, I will share, I'll probably do it near the end of this, I'll share the 5 formulas that I use, period. And I will make them so simple that if you deal with pain or want to have your home medicine cabinet completely stocked appropriately, easy breezy. And I say that not lightly, because we should. Pain is going to be something that we all are going to experience. And
Yep.
yeah, so it is something we might as well prepare for properly. And along the way, hopefully, as we prepare for pain, and we're going to make, certain decisions and understandings, and then maybe even use some remedies, hopefully we're not being counterproductive to our overall health. And that certainly is one of the challenges in modern day warfare against pain.
Warfare is a strong word, Bart, but I like it because we all do go to battle with this pain thing from time to time, and like different formats too. So it's such an applicable topic for really like any time, just to be ready, like have our plan.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about pain, and as being a healthcare provider, especially as a chiropractor and an acupuncturist, I see a lot of musculoskeletal conditions. I see a lot of people that are uncomfortable. And so over all these years, I've been able to gain a unique perspective of what humans go through when they're uncomfortable. And it's not as easy as, oh, my foot hurts and we've got to make sure the pain goes. It can literally alter a human being's train of thought. It can alter the actions that they're going to take. And sometimes if the brakes aren't pumped or we go too fast to eliminate pain, we could alter the course of where our life was headed. So a great topic, and I'm going to do the best that I can. It's hard for me to articulate what I'm going to try to do, because so much of it comes natural for a practitioner. You see so much of it, how to ask the questions, you know how to navigate the situation. And today, the one I'm going to try to do the best that I can is to try to make it black and white, so everyone can understand and really get a better grasp and a better understanding of what their body goes through when they do have pain. And I'll make another note to all of that. So it's important to understand this, that every body, literally all of our bodies, we experience pain differently. So when the doctor might say to one person, well, rate your pain for me on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the absolute worst and 1 being not so bad, everybody's number is different. And I've learned that, hands down. For some people, just to acknowledge that they have a pain of a 4, man, they got some bad stuff going on. And in a lot of times, the number doesn't do it justification, because you can see they can't move. They're humbled because they can barely get in and out of their car. And then there's others that will literally roll into my office and say, Doc, it's never been this bad. My neck hurts so bad, and they're twisting it and they're bending it every time, Doc, I do this. My neck is killing me. Where I'm thinking to myself, it can't be that bad. You're moving your neck. So I want to navigate all of these things, and especially if someone's experienced pain that keeps coming back, over and over and over again. Is it bad doctoring? Is it bad remedies? Is it the wrong drugs, the wrong medication, wrong herbs? What does that really mean to us? So we'll dive in. So just a quick shout out for those of you who are with us for the first time. Welcome to Health Made Simple Show. My goal here always, our goal is to do our best to make health simple. What I promise you is that health is simple. I don't know that the process of getting healthy is always easy, but it is simple. We got to move right. We got to eat right. We got to think right. And tonight is one of the things specifically that I want to help us navigate, because if we get this one right, man, this is a big one. If we can get pain modulation, pain understanding down properly, really, really helpful in moving ourselves forward, especially when it comes to our health.
Awesome, Bart. I love the topic for tonight, and I wonder, where should we start with pain this evening?
I think the simplest place to start is that we recognize that pain is not our enemy and that pain is a message. And when I said earlier, I think we've been taught wrong, or I know we have, this is where it starts. For the most part, we've been told to avoid pain, not to have pain. If you have pain, get rid of it ASAP. The flip side of that would be, and listen, I never, and just so we know, I'm never saying everyone, hey, let's just sit in our pain and that's needed sometimes. And I'm never saying let's just have more of it. That's never the conversation. It's really creating an understanding and a better relationship with our body so we can understand what our body is trying to tell us. One thing I know for certain, that the human body does not lie ever. So if it's uncomfortable, we have to start with this simple premise that pain, to some degree, is our friend, and it's simply a message from our bodies to us. And taking this very personal is important because it is your body that is trying to talk to you. And I want to say it that way because I don't think any one of us would ever walk around being like, yeah, I tell my body to shut up all the time. My body lies to me. And every time it says yes, I say no. But developing a relationship and understanding how our body communicates to us is critically important for longevity, for health, for being the best version of ourselves. And in order to have growth in life, in order for us to survive, quite frankly, we have to be able to experience pain. If you don't have any pain in your life, there is no growth. And I could say that on mostly tonight. There's no way to make this exclusive. Yet mostly tonight I'll talk about physical pain, musculoskeletal pain, nerve pain, etc. And as we're going to discover in just a moment here, we can't really divide emotional pain with physical pain, with who knows, spiritual pain, all of the above, because all of it is an experience that we are having in the moment. So even today, a good friend of mine came in and she walks through my door, said hi to my front desk, walks back into my office, closed the door, and starts bawling her eyes out. Okay, this happens, and in this moment, she started saying how much pain she was in. After a long, doing this for a long period of time, you can recognize when people are in musculoskeletal pain, or if this pain is really driven by an emotional component that is exasperating the physical discomforts. That part of it tonight, although we'll have to touch on some of it, I'm not going to dive too much into the emotional component, but know this, it always exists. If you have pain, you have an emotional component to your pain. Part of me doesn't want to talk about just the musculoskeletal approach here, but because this is such a deep topic, I kind of need to separate them, at least for this conversation. We will circle back in another podcast and talk about other things, and especially the emotional or the physical emotional component of being healthy. So
Beautiful. Well, I know that there is multi-layers to all aspects of health, but for tonight, since we're talking about the pain from like the musculoskeletal perspective, I wonder if Bart, you could give us like an introduction to what the different kinds of pain are in that way.
yeah, and I think that's the best place to start. So for everyone listen to this part. This is really going to help you become a great manager of your own pain. So we're going to break this down into three types or origins of the pain. So number one is that you have an acute type of pain. And that type of pain is usually what we would also throw into the category as an injury and a trauma. So you literally rolled your ankle and you got pain. You got in a car accident, you have pain. And you know exactly what, when, and how it started, and it's acute. And excuse my dog here. So that's the acute part of it. And those can be other things too. You can have, you can eat a toxin and acutely be affected, right? And you have vomit or something like that, or stomach or gut pain. You can eat something and you can have an instant headache, and that would be another acute type of pain. The second part, and this is where, and I certainly see a fair amount of that. And then the second part is what we call reoccurring pain. This is very, 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 very common, often overlooked, and often it's interpreted as acute pain. What I mean by that is this. We have this action that we do. We sleep on our sides. We're a painter. We use our right arm all the time. We're on the phone and we get these neck kinks. You sit at your desk a certain way, or you use your phone a certain way and you get wrist issues like carpal tunnel. And the action that you're doing causes the acute pain. You slow the action down, you do less of it, and you have less pain. So you bounce back and forth of these pain episodes, then they usually force you to slow down or change your behaviors. And then all of a sudden they go away. And then all of a sudden you go back to doing what you're doing, or your body can tolerate a little bit more. And this can happen in a lot of different ways. It can happen with literally the way we sit at our desk, but it could also happen. You do a certain exercise, and every time you exercise in that fashion, you get yourself injured, or it's too much for your body. So these reoccurring type of pain settings appear as if they're acute, but they're usually telling us that there's a repetitive action. And I see this one, this is definitely in the more predominant category, because we are repetitive beasts. We sit the way we sit, we sleep the way we sleep, we drive our cars the same way, we get up at the same time, we go to bed at the same time. So we're very, very repetitive in our actions. And if along the way we've carried anything forward, this is really amplified, especially if we start to knock down some other things. And I'm going to talk about those other things that are going to amplify up or amplify these down in just a moment here. And then the third part. So again, there's acute, there's been an injury, a trauma. We know exactly when and how it happened. There's reoccurring. The reoccurring is often puzzling for people. And this is really key to understand. The reason it's puzzling for people, because they go, but I always sleep on my side, doc. I've been painting for years. I've been throwing a baseball for a decade. Why is it going to hurt now? So they don't link the repetitive action with the pain, because they did it 10,000 times before and it didn't hurt then. And yet this is the one, this is the one that kind of the camel that breaks the straw that breaks the camel's back. And then last but not least is chronic. The one I just spoke about, they're reoccurring. Often people think that's chronic. It's not really chronic. Chronic is this. Chronic is you sprained your ankle 2 years ago, and then you had to kind of wobble along. Maybe you wrapped it up, or maybe you had to put a boot on it or a cast, and you changed your posture for those 8 weeks that it was healing up. Your mechanics changed, your muscle length changed, and now to compensate, you have all these imbalances. Now, down the road, you sprained your right ankle, but your left knee hurts. And then it goes back over to your right hip, because now you've created all kinds of imbalances. And you almost don't even know what the root cause was anymore, because it's not the one action. It is caused by an old injury, an old imbalance. And as a result of how your body compensated and healed for it, now you have a bunch of other problems. This might be, the root cause might be because you had an injury and the surgery created scar tissue. And the surgery created situations where now you have tighter fascia on one side versus the other. And now we have these inherent imbalances where it's not acute pain, doesn't hurt when it happened. It's this repetitiveness over and over and over again. And because of the original issue, which is now healed, the bone was healed up, the tissue is healed, the ligaments are better now, that pulled muscle is healed up. But as a result of the imbalances you created from that original issue, from that original injury, now you have these chronic conditions. And I'll see this is very, very, very common. That's where history taking is important. And what's interesting is that patients don't like to give histories.
Why do you think that is, Bart?
I don't have a good answer, but I'll also say this: I don't like to do it either. Right. And I think it is because we don't want to blame anything else on anything else but exactly what's here right now. And therefore I don't have to consider all of that. So when I go to a doctor's office and they're like past injuries, blank.
That's right. Funny, considering all of us, right? Like we all have a history of like what has happened in our bodies. And sometimes we like forget That's another wild thing about pain, Bart. Like once it's gone, it's almost like we forget that it was there, but it's so present when it's present.
Yes. And that's what happens, especially with chronic injuries. So we forget that we had the broken ankle. We forget that we had, we stepped on something. We have a cut in the bottom of our foot. We forget that our arm was in a cast for a month. We forget that you fell on that ski trip and, your shoulder was sore for 4 weeks, but you kept on life. In all of those moments, that's where all the compensations happen. So often when we try to get to root causes, and this is one of the challenges we have as providers, that we're trying to navigate this road and help you. We're gonna be able to do what we do physically. That's not the difficult part, quite frankly. That's a very easy assessment. We don't need a history for that. The challenge, in fact, quite sometimes it's almost better when people don't talk for that. And I say that jokingly because the body always tells us, just like it doesn't lie to you, it doesn't lie to us as providers. So when I put my hands on your body and say, "Oh, doc, I'm eating clean," I know immediately. And I'm random, but I love, like today I had a lady in and I said, "Do you eat real clean?" She's like, "Yes." "How do you know?" And I said, "I can feel it." The tissues of a person that's eating clean, well hydrated, they don't have a lot of toxins in their body, they've been doing it for a long time, their feel of their tissues, their muscles, tendons, ligaments, completely different than someone else who's toxic and alcohol or medications or drugs or something interfering with the body, completely different. So that part of it, quite frankly, is very easy. Yet what a lot of us like to do as providers is help that individual to teach them a little bit. That technically what the word doctor means. It's a Latin term that means to teach. So if we can help you better understand where and how this pain is this acute, is this reoccurring, is this a chronic issue, it often will help settle the mind. And when we can help settle the mind, we see the capacity to heal completely change. So that does, and again, I said I wasn't going to talk too much about that, but I do have to talk about that a little bit. So just think of this way, everyone listens. If you had a lot of fear or angst, or you had a lot of anger or a lot of anxiety, do you think those would help or inhibit healing? And I think the answer is obvious. You would say that those would inhibit, but I'm not. And then people will say, "Well, I don't have any anxiety about my pain." Well, that's where I would disagree. Most people have a fair amount of anxiousness about their pain, and they have a fair amount of fear. And I don't mean that you are a person that has anxiety, and you may, but about this topic, it's very, very common that there is. And that it's simply the fear of the unknown. So it could be a headache, and I'm not joking when I say this, and everyone out there will understand this. Sometimes you have a headache that is so bad, you've convinced yourself you have a tumor. And that just happened in your brain, and that was because of the pain. No other reason. Maybe Dr. Google helped you, but for no other reason would you ever fathom that you had a brain tumor other than you had pain. And because you don't have any known facts to prove you otherwise, you lean harder into that. And I just use that one particular example. That can happen with a knee injury. If it hurts really bad, let's say you're playing sports and it hurts really bad, you might think, "Oh my God, I must have tore my ACL." It might have nothing to do with that. But it is not uncommon that the pain drives our mind into the darkest, deepest place it could possibly be. Meaning the worst diagnosis it could be, we go there. And now we have to prove it otherwise.
I know that we will get a chance to dive a little bit deeper into the emotional component of pain, maybe on a future show. But since we're in it for a moment here, I do want to share that Kim on Facebook shared that sometimes around pain, it's a little bit of fear of accountability, which is a little bit of what you're speaking to, Bart. So I know that can be a component as well.
Yes, and I'll speak to that in just a moment here, because ultimately, if we have this conversation, we recognize and accept that pain is a message, and we start to break it down. Or is this acute? Is this reoccurring? Or is this chronic? And we start to eliminate the unknowns. Once we start to do that, we actually will find ourselves in less pain, which is really the goal here, right? So when we reduce them and then we kind of accept, So when I say accept the pain, all I mean is accept the current state that you're in. You're in pain, and the quicker you get to accepting it and decreasing the amount of stress involved with it, the faster essentially we're going to be able to heal. So that is a great component of it, the personal responsibility. Again, not many people are looking for the responsibility of pain. And it's because we've been hypnotized. Literally, like if you go on, you just watch TV tonight. We're being hypnotized every time we turn on the TV about pain. If you have pain, take this, as if it was some weird thing that we weren't supposed to have. And I'm going to remind you, unwanted, yes, absolutely required for growth and survival of the human body, 100%. Imagine for a second, you didn't get it. You said, no, we can eradicate pain. And you chose, yes, I'll take that button. But then after that, you put your finger on a burning stove and you got no pain. You would destroy your finger. It would be inoperable. It would no longer be able to use it as you normally once were, because it would just burn away or melt away. So pain is required. It is part of growth, and it is part of our survival. So the responsibility part gets easier. And that's part of why I'm doing this talk here on our podcast. If we understand everything we can, the best we can, then we also have tools for action, and we know where it comes from, pain management becomes a lot easier. And I'll tell you, the other part of the responsibility is this, and maybe this is what Kim meant. Oftentimes we got to change our actions. And that's probably what Kim meant. It is us that most likely are doing the same things over and over again that are causing these actions. Some of the actions that happened, they were accidents. They were car accidents. They were slip and fall on a ski slope. They were something where we literally injured ourselves and we did not intentionally do it, but it's still our action. We still have to own that. So with those being said, let me move a little bit forward and continue the thought process of some of the things I want us to think about when you have pain. Okay.
Yeah,
First
I
of all,
wonder if you have a couple questions that we could ask ourselves, like when that pain is coming, to kind of figure out what's going on.
yes. So the first part is, where is my pain? So it's almost like the art of breathing. I was talking to someone earlier. It's actually one of our staff members, and I was talking about how I jump in the pool now for my cold plunge. I don't have a cold plunge at the house. The cold, I have no problem with the cold. Then I've been trying to work through the psychology of like, what is it that I have any hesitation for? And it's the leap from the pool deck into the water is my sticking point.
That's interesting, Bart. Not the cold. Water
It's not the
slide, all
cold.
good.
I've no issue with the cold. Once I'm in, I'm like, this isn't that bad. And this is what I find is often about pain. That if you just let pain just be pain by itself, it's not that bad. Here's the challenge. When we add to pain that this may, and I'm going to fill in a couple blanks, not let us go to the game next week, be uncomfortable on vacation, not let us go on vacation, not let us do the exercise tomorrow morning. This might hang us up for 2 weeks and you're going to get fat. These are real things that go on in our brain that take our pain and elevate its impact on our psyche. So the goal here is let's do, and so what happens when I jump in the cold, I dive all the way in. So my head's under and I'm sitting on the bottom of the pool. And in that moment, it's kind of weird because I was so amped up about the cold. This happens every time I jump in. So amped up about the cold, I forget to breathe. I forget to think about my breath. In the moment I do, it all goes away. And I'm like, this isn't that bad. This really isn't that bad. And I'll tell you that same practice, I know this hands down. The people who have kind of experienced, or kind of say the outward experience of the highest levels of pain, are never breathing. They're always very short, choppy breathers. So that by itself is worth acknowledging, that if we want to change the system, the impact, and maybe just let it be just the cold, just let it be the pain, a couple deep breaths could be magical for us.
Absolutely.
Yes. And And to do that, we have to have a breathing practice. So we've talked about it here in the show before, how powerful breath can be. So I'm going to continue to say, if you don't have a breathing practice, try to figure one out. You can go online, go to Google, go to yoga class, yet learn how to use your breath under stress. And that's what I love the yoga class for, because your yoga instructor, while you're sitting there like holding your breath in, you know, one of your postures, your yoga teacher is going to come over in a nice, sweet voice and be like, relax, breathe. And all of a sudden, the pain that you were in that posture disintegrates.
It is shockingly effective.
It is shocking, yes. So I do the same thing in my office, and I'm able to play some other mind games as well. And I ask questions when people are in the midst of their pain. What I don't ask them is, where is it? And point to it. How bad is it? Those are not the questions I ask. I usually need to know where it is, but nonetheless, I'll ask them, when did it start? What were you doing? I get them out of it for a moment to start thinking about something other than their pain. So if you're experiencing the pain, here's a couple of things you do. First of all, just identify where in your body is it. And I'm going to help you be almost your own clinician right now. So what you're looking for here, is it in one area, very local, or is it crossing your joint? So is it in your joint? Is it just in your neck? Or is it actually radiating? So if it's in one area, like you have a pulled muscle or bruised muscle, then usually it is muscular in general. If it crosses a joint and it hurts from my shoulder down to my wrist, you also got to know that there's nerves involved with this. So nerves are really the only thing that crosses the joints, and it'll travel pain through the joints. So if you got pain that starts in your butt and goes down to your ankle, you got nerve pain. And this is going to be important, because in a little bit, I'm going to share with you the remedies that I use, herbal remedies that I use. And again, everything I say tonight is not supposed to be taken as doctor advice. This is certainly just information that I'm going to share along. And if it works for you, you have a conversation with your doctor to make sure that this is appropriate for you. All right. So that is the first thing we do. Where is it in your body? Does it cross joints? Where is it physically? The second part, what do you think the origin is? This kind of goes back to, is it a trauma? Have I experienced this pain before? How did I get out of it last time? What happened last time? And that right there, that question right there really starts to help us identify, well, wait a minute, I did get out of this before. And yep, it did take 2 weeks. And you know what? Damn it, I know why this happened, because I did that thing again. And so it just eases the body and the mind immediately. Now, to that personal responsibility, you might still be really upset and pissed off that this might take 2 weeks. So that is a good one to understand the origin. And then also this, recognize what you're putting into your body. This is really important. And I don't mean just your drugs or your herbs. I'm talking about food. This is a much bigger conversation, or has much bigger importance that many people give to it. So if you have pain and you feed it with sugar, you're probably making your pain much worse than it really is. So like many other things, the body's definitely going to function better with foods that are anti-inflammatory. Things like your fruits and veggies, right? The foods that come from God's garden. Where we give it pro-inflammatory foods, we give it sugar and high fructose corn syrup and toxins and the things your body can't process, like canola oil. You're literally setting your body up to be in a worse position, and not only to handle the discomfort, the pain, maybe the injury, but now you probably have added fire to it.
That's a good point of awareness, because it's a little bit different than maybe some practices that we've heard in the past of like comfort foods when we're not feeling well. But if you think about like the things you're putting in as activations for healing, it can have such a profound effect on, like, just if we're only talking about the pain experience, you can feel better faster with better stuff going in.
It is. And this is a really tricky part with, because when we're not feeling good, the fastest way that we know on your own, you don't need any doctor to tell you, the fastest way to have a moment of pleasure, to feel good, eat something, sugar. And then for that moment, you will downregulate a little bit of the pain. So we have to be very, very, very gentle and careful. And that's why this conversation tonight is so important, especially if you know people that are in pain. I see people in chronic pain that are sugarholics, and they're trying to use the sugar as a result of reduce the pain. It doesn't, and it just won't, it's a never ending game. And then often it's not uncommon that sugar ends up turning to some type of a drug or an opiate or something else that can be very detrimental to the human body. Not that sugar's not, because sugar is probably the worst drug in the world because it's the most abundantly used. So for those reasons, it's more emphasis moving forward in our lives on the nutrition that we are or not using, massively important.
So if you are able to identify like where the origin of the pain is in your body and kind of like how it's moving around, and enjoying some anti-inflammatory foods, which can be delicious, what would be the next step when we find ourselves in pain?
So there's a couple of things we can do, and especially when it comes to, let's just say, getting to the point of fixing it. But before I go there, I want to share a couple of the conversations that I'll hear, so everyone can kind of just identify the best can. So it's not uncommon that I'll hear someone say, "Doc, I don't know what I did. It literally I just came out of nowhere. I just bent over and boom." And those are moments. That's where we start to go, well, this was acute. Was I injured? Nope. Was this a reoccurring injury? Maybe. Most likely the reoccurring you're going to notice when you're painting or you're writing or you're typing or something. Or could this be a chronic issue that I never really fixed? Now you have imbalances. You have postural imbalances or mechanical imbalances. You could have muscular imbalances. And so that's a common thing that I'll hear on a regular basis. Doc, I don't know what I did. Another interesting one that I'll hear often, and this always makes my eyes open up and my ears pucker a little bit, because I go, okay, I got to see where this is coming from. When someone's down and they say, "Oh my God, Doc, it's literally killing me, and I have a super high threshold for pain," when they tell me that, and everyone might be wondering, like, why does that even matter? So if you have a super high threshold for pain, guess what you never say? That you have.
Is it that?
Yeah. It's just not. It's not something you would say. So it always concerns me a little bit that we have a perception of a super high threshold of pain, and now you're in more pain, so therefore this is more serious to you. And that, as a provider, as the healthcare practitioner, I'm thinking, okay, there's probably also an emotional component for this, because if you can normally tolerate pain and you're telling me now it's worse than what you can normally tolerate, and you can tolerate a lot of pain, how does it get worse than worse? When we add an emotional component to it, we can take it to a level we've never experienced before. So just kind of a little, keep your eyes and ears out for that one. And my experience with that too is, oddly enough, I find the people that say I have a super high threshold for pain usually do not. I don't know my threshold for pain, and this is where it's all relative. So I'd never say I have a high threshold for pain. I'm not afraid of it. I get punched in the face all the time. It doesn't feel good. So I don't know if that's a threshold or just a knucklehead syndrome, but it's not something that I typically say, because I don't want any more pain than I have to experience, and I certainly don't tolerate it at all. Right? Does that make sense? So there's a little bit of difference here between I have a high tolerate, I can tolerate a high level of pain. We don't want to tolerate any pain. We want to listen. We want to recognize what the body's trying to talk to us about, have that conversation, and move in a direction, hopefully, it doesn't have to give us pain whatsoever.
Totally. So from that awareness, where can we next go?
Okay, so we've kind of identified, is this an acute issue? Is this a reoccurring? Is it a chronic? We start to recognize what part of my body, does it cross joints? We recognize, is there a nutritional component to this that I'm feeding it? And now we just want to think some basic stuff. One, again, the foods are important. Are there toxins causing this? Mostly overlooked, because it's not something that, again, it goes almost to the question earlier, there's a lot of responsibility that comes with this. Yet I have a lot of people that have headaches and they have musculoskeletal tension in their body because of perfumes that they get exposed to. They'll have musculoskeletal, issues because of the products that they're washing their clothes in, and it puts their body, their nervous system, under tension regularly, and they build up musculoskeletal issues. Then they go use their body under this tension, and it breaks down on it. So we certainly want to pay super, super close attention to everything that we're exposing ourselves to, the food and the toxins. And then the second part of this is range of motion. If we're talking tonight about musculoskeletal issues, when I say musculoskeletal, I mean literally your muscles, your joints, all the body parts that we have, range of motion is incredibly important. And more often than not, I see people losing their range of motion instead of regaining it. Well, I think of that because I guess I'm involved in a yoga studio. I see a lot of people regaining range of motion in their later years. They're 30, 40, 50. They start yoga and all of a sudden they're improving range of motion and essentially they're anti-aging. Yet not uncommon that the longer we sit at our desks, the longer we sleep on the same side every night, the longer that we're in our cars and sit on our couches and our favorite chairs and all that kind of stuff, we start to reduce the range of motion, the movement that we have in the human body. And
Or can we ever be too old to improve our range of motion? Can we ever be too far gone?
no, and I say that with all honesty, meaning this. I see people that, for example, I see, so let's say older gentlemen that are literally bent over, walking forward instead of even straight up and down, they're bent forward. And then they slowly but surely have a strategy, and I'll help them with those strategies of how to, the spinal flow we talk about, creating a little movement, getting their body to move, use a little bit more breath when they're moving. And next thing you know, they're standing taller, improving range of motion at 70, 80 years old. And one thing you can absolutely, account for and count on that if you improve your range of motion, you are improving your longevity, your potential longevity here on the face of this earth. The simple example is, we are born like Gumby and we die rigor mortis, right? So we want to see on that pendulum. I don't know that we can stop it, but man, maybe we can put the brakes on it and back it up a little bit and improve range of motion. I know for me, that was a big part of, I would say, being able to extend my physical exertion joys. For me, I played years of rugby, did a lot of, Brazilian jiu-jitsu and kickboxing and all that fun stuff. And everything started breaking down. And this was probably my early 40s and everything was getting injured. I was tearing every muscle and hurting every joint. And then I started my yoga practice. And I had to give some of those repetitive things up because every time I went to jiu-jitsu practice, I hurt my neck. And it would take another 4 weeks, another 6 weeks. I got really involved in yoga and I was probably off of the mats 5+ years. Not just off the mats doing nothing. This is always important when we talk about health, not just doing nothing, but I was full-blown dove in head deep into being a yogi and restored a lot of range of motion. So I really, and I know I'm just one experiment of one, but my body moves better now at 53 than it did at 43, hands down. So to your point, the answer is heck yes, we can. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yes. All right. So we have the increased range of motion. And then here's the other part. We have to strengthen imbalances. And this might require you getting with the trainer. Yet if you've been sitting at a desk for a long period of time, I keep going back to that because that is a big no when it comes to human posture, is sitting like I am right now, sitting on our butts. It will inevitably over time create a weakness in the number one strongest muscle group of the human body, and that's our glutes. And they slow down firing, they stop firing, they create massively tight hamstrings. We blame our hamstrings, but it's really the lack of firing for our glutes. To stabilize those, our hip flexors get really, really tight. And then we have all kinds of issues with our hips and with our knees and with our ankles and all whatnot. And then our shoulders start to roll forward. So an imbalance in our muscle system and weakness in our bodies is a big part of what we start have to observe. Again, one of the reasons I love all exercise. Like people think I might not like CrossFit because I see some injuries. No, CrossFit doesn't injure a single human being. It is human beings that are not prepared to do CrossFit get injured, right? So one of the reasons I love yoga so much is because there's so much lengthening and strengthening simultaneously. And it really can create a strong human being. Now, take that and throw some weights on there, not in the yoga class, but start training with some weights, get a little bit stronger, and you're really doubling down on your physical body, which is beautiful. All right, I'm going to go a little farther here, and I don't want to make this too complicated. Again, I want to keep this simple, but I want everyone to start to understand a little of the physiology of the actual pain. And again, I don't have a manual or anything like that I created for all this. I might down the road. Yeah, this just comes from a bunch of years of practice and me trying to observe and then also teach it the best that I can, literally to everyone that comes in. So for a moment here, I'm going to dive into the physiology of pain. And this will help too, because this can take a lot of the fear away. Again, often a big component of pain is the fear of the unknown. What is this? What is this going to interfere with? Will this ever stop? Because I don't know what it is, so I don't know how to stop it. So in this situation, let's just talk physiology for a moment. So one of the reasons we have pain, so this is the kind of the root causes of what is taking place when you have pain. One of the reasons is we have a hypersensitivity of the nerves. The nerves are firing too much and you have pain. In those situations, so that's a good example of like trauma. You get hit by something, you sprain your ankle. In those situations, ice will slow down that messaging. So hyper sensitivity can be decreased by using ice. So we can slow it down to make it hypo. So that's a good situation when it's nerve pain and is firing off too much. That creates a nerve sensitivity. Things like ice can be helpful. But just knowing that one of the reasons that we have pain is because there's a hypersensitivity of the nervous system. And that often needs to be calmed down. And not always easy, because this is the type of pain that you'll get, and you're like, it's burning, it's radiating. It can, even if you're tough, this can get to you a bit here. All right. The other part is inflammation. So I notice how I separated the nerve pain and inflammation, because they are two different things. And even within inflammation, there's two parts of inflammation. You can have a joint like a shoulder joint or a wrist or an elbow or a hip joint, and you can have inflammation in your joint. We call those things, sometimes we call them osteoarthritis and all the itises. But nonetheless, you get inflammation in the joint. And this is often easy to remedy as well. And I'm going to get there in just a moment here. But then we can also have systemic inflammation. And that's where literally the entire body could be inflamed. And what happens in those situations, that then where you have a chronic situation and there's old scar tissue, you will elicit pain in those areas and have no idea why all of a sudden you have this random pain in your elbow. It's because you have this systemic, and often it's caused by a toxin, something that disagrees with your body. Could be a food sensitivity, could be gluten. And this is where it is very common. So even listeners, listen, you might say, I don't understand. Sometimes I literally just have the weirdest pain here or the weirdest pain over there. And you don't know how it got there. It kind of freaks you out a little bit because you don't know what it could be. And often our brains start thinking, is that what cancer feels like? Right? So and the answer is no. That systemic inflammation in your body has a particular spot where all of a sudden things are clogged up a little bit and your body is rebelling against it. So there's a little bit of a battle. And now the nerves are being irritated because of systemic inflammation. Then last but not least, when it comes to pain, is tension. Right? So if you sit at your desk for long periods of time, you're typing away, your neck starts getting tense because we don't have enough flow. And really, all that tension, again, it could be, some of it could be caused as a result of things we're putting into our body. And I keep going back there because it's way too discounted. Never thought of. I don't know that I've ever had someone come in, well, that's not true. They would say, I had too much sugar and now my knees are hurting again. I take that back. I'll see that conversation a decent amount in the office, especially right after a cleanse. Good example, right? People come off their cleanse. A lot of people have done their 21 days and they're 4 or 5 days afterwards. And they go, Doc, is it possible that my knee pain came back the night after I had pizza? Yep. Not only possible, it's probable.
Definitely. Glass of wine, 3 days in a row. Yes. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yes. And all of a sudden you go, hot damn, those pains are back. And I blamed them on everything else but me and everything else but that glass of wine. Yeah. So really taking some accountability and really taking, kind of doing a gut check, not only just a gut check, but an inventory of all those different things. So we're looking at nerve pain, which is a hypersensitivity. We're looking at inflammation of 2 different types. We can have joint pain. We also can have systemic pain, and then also just physical tension in the body. So I'm bringing all these up, and I want to talk about some herbs in just a moment. Hopefully I'm doing the right time here. We got plenty of time.
Yeah, we got plenty of time, Bart. Don't worry.
Plenty of time. Yeah, just wherever we need to go tonight. I want to get to the end of this because the magic is in the ability to, for everyone to especially have some remedies here and understand where and how to go with this. So again, just a little bit of repeat here. Every body, all our bodies are going to experience pain differently. And therefore, it's very important that we start to know our own bodies and trust it and honor and love it. We have to love our body and stop fighting and arguing with it. Most people that come in my office that are really kind of wound up about pain, they're arguing with reality. They're arguing with their own body. They're arguing with the fact that their body does not want their finger to be on a burning stove, and they want to do it. I know no one's going to do that to the stove, but they're arguing with the fact that 12 hours at a desk, driving around for 4 hours a day, and having minimal sleep, your body doesn't want to do that. It's going to get tighter and tighter and tighter. And then you go try to go bang out a hard exercise. Your body goes, no, I'm not doing this.
I don't think I've ever won the argument with my body, Bart.
No, we can't. Unfortunately, the reality is if we don't have a conversation like this, if somewhere along the line, someone isn't saying, what do you think your body's trying to tell you? And you don't take a little bit of that personal responsibility, and you end up in a situation where someone's saying, oh, you want me to eliminate your pain? Take an opiate. Take a little oxy. That'll do it. So there aren't many things that'll completely annihilate pain. You never want to annihilate pain. Listen, if you're pain-free and you don't have receptors telling your body, you're in trouble. So alcohol can do it. It can really downregulate and dangerous, right? We do silly things with our bodies because our pain receptors are downregulated. So, let's be mindful of that. And we certainly don't want to drink away our pain. And people do it all the time because alcohol will downregulate the communication between mind and body. Opiates, unfortunately, cocaine's another one. So those are probably the only three things that are really shut down pain altogether. And again, we don't want that. We want to have a healthy relationship with our pain. And one of the ways we create that healthy relationship is understanding all the things we just spoke of. All right, now let's talk herbs for a moment. This is my favorite part.
Awesome.
Yes. So let me start by saying that when using herbs, they are not drugs. And this is really important to understand. So I want you to think consuming herbs for health regulation, for downregulating pain. Think of it more like eating food. You just happen to use something that's super medicinal and has thousands of years of experience doing such. And now you get to find out the ones that work the most effective in which situations. And I'm going to share those with everyone in just a moment. The other part about herbs is that in order for them to work, you must have them available.
Does that mean like in the medicine cabinet, ready to go?
That means in your medicine cabinet, ready to go. Just like, so this is the concept here. So just like everyone listening to this, maybe not everybody, but probably 99% of everyone listening to this has either some type of Tylenol or aspirin at home. They might not use it every time, but they have it in the cabinet for that moment. That's how we have to go back to looking at herbs. Herbs last for years in your cabinets if you get the right ones. They will, and then when you need them, they're available. And that's really, really important. And listen, if you have Tylenol, just toss it out. Like, as I was doing this, came across something about Tylenol, I believe is the #1 cause of liver damage in the world. Yeah.
I wish we could say it all the time, Bart, because so many of us have it just thinking it's innocuous in the cabinet, and it is causing harm.
It is damaging. And that is one of the other reasons that we want to have other options, right? We want to have other options. So I want to map them out to you. So what I'm going to do to you, just because I love talking about herbs, I'm going to talk about a group of herbs, whole list of them. I'm going to spit out all this cool information about each one. But then I'm going to talk to you. I use 5 things in my office. That's it. And I'm going to map out exactly how I use it, how we do it. Easy breezy, done deal. So, and then you'll just have to listen to this last 10 minutes. If you're like wanting all this information packed into 10 minutes, like what do I do next? There's going to be 5 things I use in my office. I'm going to map it out really, really simple for you. But in that being said, let me talk about how cool some of these herbs are. The first ones I want to talk about are boswellia, which another name of that is frankincense. Boswellia and turmeric. Put those two together, and that is the single best thing for arthritis. That is the formula right there. That is the most researched, most abundant. That is what I use in my office. Someone says, I got arthritis. That's the best one to use. Is turmeric by itself really good? Yes. Is boswellia really good by itself? Yes. Put the two together, they work better. It's awesome. Boswellia, pain reliever, helps with asthma, joint pains, inflammation, a little bit of everything. Turmeric, and I'll get into this. I don't even know if I have to say anything about turmeric. I think by this point, everyone knows turmeric has an incredible array of different health benefits, everything from heart health to helping fight off some studies will say it helps fight off cancers. I can't really say that, but there are studies out there that'll show that. No doubt about it. Down regulation of inflammation, systemic and joint. And this is going to be key when I get into the 5 and how I use them. Super rich in phytonutrients, neutralizes free radicals. This is pretty important too, because maybe your diet isn't so great. Turmeric will be one of your better friends when it comes to helping your body neutralize those toxins, because all those toxins become free radicals in the body, and that creates more situations where we can become inflamed and have more pain in the body. Lower cholesterol. So there's so many good things that turmeric can do. All right, now I want to take a moment to talk about an herb that not many people have heard of. It's called the willow bark. Willow bark, interesting enough, comes from tree, the willow bark tree. And it has a very specific type of compound called salicylin. Salicylin, when broken down in the human body, creates salicylic acid. This is what the synthetic form of aspirin. So aspirin basically mimics salicylic acid. So what I want everyone to hear is, so willow bark, natural, 100% easy breezy, good for pain relief, musculoskeletal, joint pain. Like this is the thing where like literally you've overworked your muscles, you got muscle tension, you've injured something, you pull the muscle, you physically have discomfort, like it hurts your muscles. Salicylic acid, which comes from willow bark, that is the primary herb. The beauty of this is that unfortunately, we know that aspirin, especially over long-term use, even though your doctor's recommended sometimes an aspirin a day, it messes with your gut. It creates GI dysfunction, and it inhibits the gut lining, and then all of a sudden now we have issues with absorption of nutrients. Willow bark will not do that. That product that I use, it's not called willow bark, it's called salagesic. So think of salicylic acid with agesic, which means the downregulation of pain, and put those two words together. It's called salagesic. So that's one of the ones, and I'm going to cover that again and just how and when I use that. So those are two different ones. The boswellia and the turmeric combined. That one's in a product called Boswellia Complex. All right, we're going to move forward here. All right. So the next 3 I want to talk about, probably this group, I'm going to talk about 3 different herbs. Jamaican dogwood, cordialis, and California poppy. And these 3, this is probably one of the most popular ones that I use because of how effective it is. So for some, Jamaican dogwood will work better than an opiate. Some people respond that well for pain modulation. When you put those 3 together, we have 3 different herbs that are going to help with pain. And especially something like California poppy, it's a bit sedative. So if you have been, remember, the hyper stimulus of nerves is one of the issues with pain. So when you have nerve pain, down regulating the hyper response is the key here. That's why some people will take an Advil, they'll take certain things and won't touch certain pains, like, for example, sciatic pain. So if you have nerve pain, numbness and tingling going down into your arms, if you have sciatic pain going back of your leg, Jamaican dogwood, California poppy, and cordialis, that blend is literally a home run. And that's one of the more popular ones I use in my office. And technically that one's called nervagesic. So the other one was called salagesic. This one's called nervagesic. And just like it sounds, you have nerve pain. And we learned earlier tonight that you have nerve pain when it crosses a joint. You got something that crosses a joint, goes from your low back into your glute, crosses those joints. Now we're thinking, I got nerve pain. That's hypersensitivity, and I got to calm that down. All right. Another one of my favorites, we're almost done here, is I'm going to put these 3 together, then we're going to review the list here, is ginger. And this is completely overlooked. And this is really good. So if you fell into the category of the second one, which is reoccurring injuries and or chronic, you want to use ginger somewhere in your life. And here's why. Ginger is phenomenal at increasing circulation, especially if you have the tendency to run a little bit cold. And if you're dealing with any thyroid issues like a hypothyroidism, you will have a little less blood circulation. Your body temperature is going to be a little bit different. So ginger can be a phenomenal, it's a warming herb. And we want increase circulation to those joints, those muscles, and those tendons that have had repetitive actions and chronic issues. So take ginger, add some California poppy herb to that, and add another little unknown. So California poppy, I think people have at least heard of it. Phenomenal. It sedates, it downregulates nerve function in terms of the hypersensitivity of pain. Very, very good if you're, if you need to sleep or something. So the California poppy is wonderful. And then there's another one called celery root seed. And celery root seed is phenomenal for, again, pain modulation, helping things calm down. So those three together, and that one we have a liquid version of that. And that's one we call an anti-inflammatory tonic. Throw in a little bit of turmeric in there, and you've got yourself a perfect blend. And that, the reason that one we blended in the sense of, it's a tonic. Does it taste good? No. Does it work really, really fast? Yes. So it doesn't have to be digested. So often that tonic, I'm not even joking when I say this. You'll do the tonic. I'll often do it with a client right in front of them. Like we'll do it together. I'll say, just try this out. And within like 60 seconds, those herbs are going to work. And you just literally feel, wow, did I just get a little less inflammation? Have I slowed down that hypersensitivity of the nerves? So now let me pull all that together. You don't have to remember all those individual herbs. So here's where we're going to go with this. One, Boswellia complex, if you have joint pain or arthritis. 2, turmeric. There's a very specific one called turmeric forte. It's bound to fenugreek, and that fenugreek allows it to cross the blood-brain barrier, gut barrier, and even into every cell, tissue, and organ of the body. This is a great one for everyday inflammation for anything, or diets, exercise, anything that you might do. This is also one of the ones I recommend just literally us taking every day. You don't need a high dose. And you could also use it like you use Boswellia for joint pain. That particular one, Boswellia with the turmeric, will work a little bit better. But if you just want to take one, you don't have to have 50 bottles. You can just use a turmeric. It'll work for your joint pain and also systemically, even gut pain, leaky gut, etc. The third one we'll talk about is nervogesic. Like the name says, this is for nerve pain. If it travels across those joints, you get sciatic pain, numbness and tingling in the arms. That's your one. The beauty of all these that I'm talking about, you don't have to take them every day. But they got to be in your medicine cabinet. They got to be in your healthy medicine cabinet. If they're not there, you can't use them when the time comes. And then last but not least, there's 2 more. Salagesic, you got muscle pain. You're training too hard. Maybe someone kicked you in the shin last week. I don't know. Whatever, right? You fall on your bike and you got bruises all over your body. You're banged up a little bit. Or maybe headaches, for example. This is a perfect one. Anytime, any place that you might use that aspirin, Salagesic is fantastic for them. So I like, oftentimes, if I've got my body beat up a little bit, I'll use the combination of the nervogesic and the Salagesic. And the beauty of the nervogesic, anything that slows down that hypersensitivity, it also will be very effective in helping you sleep, even though you have pain at night. So you might put an asterisk next to that, the nervogesic. If you have pain at night that is inhibiting your sleep, nervogesic is absolutely fantastic for that. So last but not least is going to be the anti-inflammatory tonic. Does it taste good? No. It actually has a bit of a bite to it. For those of you who don't care about that and you just like results, this is phenomenal. This literally will get you results really fast. This could be anything from gut inflammation, and heaven knows pretty much everyone walking around has some level of gut inflammation. Could be headaches, could be muscle tension, nerve tension, headaches, a little bit of everything. And that tonic is phenomenal for it. And again, all of these as needed, other than maybe the turmeric forte, you might often or just choose to use it as on a daily basis as well.
All right, that was a pretty amazing roundup of some tools to have in our medicine cabinet for various types of pain that will happen in our lives as we go along. Thank you for ironing that out for us. That's amazing. I've put a couple links in the chat just in case anyone would like to check out any of that stuff with us. I wonder, Bart, could I ask you this great question of what is one step that our listeners can take towards becoming superhuman?
Yeah. And I think to this topic right here, learn to listen to your body better. And then simultaneously be a good friend to your body. If we're not a good friend to our body, then we get ourselves in a little trouble, and our body never lies. So learn how to become a good listener. Use this information. If you have to listen to it again, if you learn it, you will eliminate so much of the fear, worries, and concerns that come with being uncomfortable. And they're real. I get it. And once we eliminate those, you can get to the primary thing, which would be healing up and get back into your life and get back into the fun things. So hopefully that answered. Those things will definitely help you level up and become the best version of yourself. All right, Whit, I think we did a good job. I know we ran a little bit longer than normal, but I started late too. So
I think it all happened in good time. Guys, thank you so much for joining us for the Healthy Simple show tonight.
yes. And once again, thank you guys for being here. And again, do your thing. Keep sharing it out, keep spreading the love, especially a topic like this, pain, where we all know someone that has pain, and maybe chronic pain or reoccurring or acute pain. It's good just information for them to know so they can tackle and make their lives a little better. And then, of course, continue to take deliberate action for your mind, your body, overall wellness. Y'all be awesome.